Review, a daily program that delves into the latest and most significant economic stories. From stock markets to currency news, Business Review covers the most up-to-date stories in the global financial world.
Millions of white, red, and violet roses in different parts of the Gaza Strip were destroyed in various ways instead of being sold locally or exported internationally. The Gazan farmers were forced to destroy large quantities of roses grown on their lands in the city of Rafah, southern Gaza Strip, as a result of the failure of the current season due to the effects of the coronavirus COVID-19 crisis on different sectors of life, in light of the ongoing state of emergency in the Strip.
When we talk about the recent corona crisis and how it led to the total lockdown in the Gaza Strip, farmers have incurred huge losses that led to their flowers being destroyed or provided to livestock. We are talking about $1 million in losses in the flower and ornament sector.
Over the course of days, they destroyed various varieties of roses that were planted in recent months, which they hoped they'd sell the largest possible quantity of them in the local market, particularly during the weddings and pre-Ramadan period. A Gazan farmer estimates the total amount of his financial losses for this year at about 150,000 shekels, which constituted the total rose crops grown on the area ranging from 9 to 10 acres of agricultural land.
Because of the corona pandemic, these flowers were not marketed, so we had to destroy them, and we were severely damaged in the farm, where our losses are estimated at 150,000 shekels. For each acre of ordinary flowers costs 30,000 shekels and 50,000 shekels for the roses, which is more than 170,000 shekels. If the crisis continues like this, we will lose all the flower farms in the Gaza Strip.
It indicates that the demand for rose cultivation has clearly decreased in recent years due to the lack of interest among Gazans due to economic crisis, and the turnout was limited to occasions such as weddings, holidays, and high school graduations.
From the time of the arrival of the coronavirus and the lockdown, all wedding halls were shut and everything was closed. Consequently, all our work has stopped. There are no weddings or occasions here to sell roses. The situation is terrible and we are close to shutting down and losing our livelihoods.
According to the Ministry of Agriculture, the capital for the production of an acre of flowers amounts to $6,000, and in the event of marketing locally, selling in Gaza will be a necessary loss, noting that the loss this year amounted to $1 million and the percentage of sales is close to 0%. For KTV2, this is Business Review Program, Yumna Syed, Gaza, Palestine.
Chief Daniel Hum of 11 Madison Park, who's used to being paid for fine dining with exclusive black credit cards, says his richest reward during the COVID-19 crisis is the grateful smiles of poor New Yorkers fed by the Michelin 3-star restaurant he's turned into a charity kitchen. Cooks at his Manhattan eatery, which was named World's Best Restaurant in 2017 by the World's 50 Best Restaurants Academy, are preparing 3,000 meals a day for frontline workers and underprivileged New Yorkers, most of them distributed at a Harlem church. Workside, along the New York City-based non-profit Rethink Food, which transforms restaurant leftovers into dishes for the disadvantaged, Hum and his staff have churned out some 90,000 meals being served each week to the needy during the pandemic. Rethink Food founder and CEO Matt Yowiask started his group in 2017. Stripped of his tablecloths and upscale clientele, the dining room looks lonely compared with the activity in the kitchen, where meals are prepared for distribution at churches, soup kitchens, community centers, and housing projects. Hum transformed the kitchen into a commissary using private donations and $250,000 donated by American Express, all of which went through Rethink Food. After the lockdown restrictions lift and some normalcy is restored, Hum knows he will continue cooking not just for the 1%, but for those facing extreme poverty as well. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said the city has distributed 32 million meals since mid-March to feed the hungry, with roughly 2 million New Yorkers currently facing food insecurity.
Temperature checks at the door, plastic dividers between tables, and sanitizer-infused towels served between main course and dessert will be on the menu at the Brooklyn Chop House in downtown Manhattan when the popular eatery reopens in the post-coronavirus lockdown era. Staff will wear shoe coverings, like in hospitals, and face shields attached to a hat, with matching the Brooklyn Chop House masks underneath. Since the coronavirus and COVID-19 pandemic swept the nation, 5.5 million U.S. restaurant industry workers have lost their jobs in April, according to the National Restaurant Association. The virus hit New York establishments especially hard, where the industry group says restaurants accounted for 9% of employment in the state in 2019 and brought in $51.6 billion in sales in 2019. Brooklyn Chop House's director of operations said the restaurant is working full steam to get ready for reopening sometime this summer. In addition to body temperature scanners made from metal detectors, every customer will have to wear a mask with an option to use a duckbill's face covering with a hole and flaps that prevent droplets from getting out. Tables will be separated by plastic partitions, and plates and glasses will be wrapped in plastic to prevent contamination. The restaurant will also use strips measuring level of disinfectant on surfaces. MOFGON estimates the changes to the Brooklyn Chop House will cost $15,000. That sum will come from the company's savings and deals made with suppliers because government's PPP small business loans don't allow for such expenses. Adding to that, after the opening, the 200-seat restaurant's capacity will be 30% lower to meet the criteria of social distancing, says Morfkin, but he sees it as a necessary sacrifice.
Kabul residents ventured out to a street bazaar to buy sweets and dried fruit ahead of Eid al-Fitr, defying a lockdown to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. People at the bazaar were mostly not social distancing or wearing masks or gloves. The city of 6 million people was put on lockdown on March the 28th to curb the spread of the virus, with offices, public transport, and most businesses closed.
As Europeans have sought stress relief from baking while under lockdown, one of Belgium's last water mills still producing flour has also seen a surge in demand as supermarket shelves empty. Belgian baker Adrienne, whose mill in the Adriens region of Belgium near Luxembourg has been producing flour for 6 centuries, said she had to rely on a network of small shops and online sales to supply eager consumers stuck at home and rediscovering baking. With friends and family baking and sharing their creations via social media during the coronavirus pandemic, Belgians have been mixing, kneading, and proving to overcome boredom. Once one of 430 mills noted in a 19,000 census in the region, the Hologan mill's increased activity since March has not been without challenges. German bakers seeking scarce spelt grain on the Belgian market have sharply driven up prices. The month of April was one of the driest and warmest on record, according to Belgium's Royal Institute of Meteorology, meaning a lower harvest for wheat farmers and lower river water levels for the mill.
The Chinese Premier Li Keqiang said China will promote higher standard opening up and stabilize the overall performance of foreign trade and foreign investment. Li was delivering a government work report on behalf of the State Council at the opening meet of the third session of the 13th National People's Congress (NPC) held at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. Li said that faced with changes in the external environment, China must stay committed to opening the door to the wider world, keep the industrial and supply chain stable, and make opening up a catalyst for reform and development. He added China will stabilize the overall performance of foreign trade. To help businesses get more orders and keep their employees on, China will increase credit supply, extend the coverage of export credit insurance, lower compliance costs for imports and exports, and support the domestic sale of export products. Li said China will accelerate the growth of cross-border e-commerce and other new forms of business, enhance the international shipping capacity, and advance a new round of trials for innovative development of trade in services. He said that China will make good preparations for the third China International Import Expo, work actively to expand imports, and foster a large global-oriented market of higher standards. He added China will step up utilization of foreign capital. The negative list for foreign investment will be significantly shortened, while a negative list will also be drawn up for cross-border trade in services, and China will grant greater autonomy in reform and opening up to pilot free trade zones, speed up the establishment of a free trade port in Henan in South China, have some new free trade zones and integrated bonded areas in the central and western regions, and launch further comprehensive trials on opening up the service sector. The report added China will foster an enabling market environment in which all companies, Chinese and foreign, are treated as equals and engaged in fair competition. The 13th NPC, the country's top legislature, opened its annual session at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing after being delayed for over 2 months due to the pandemic.
Madrid residents jogged and walked outdoors after Spain's government announced lockdown will be eased in Madrid and Barcelona to allow outdoor dining in gatherings of up to 10 people as infections slow. Spain started phasing out one of Europe's toughest lockdowns earlier this month, but full restrictions had remained in both Madrid and Barcelona because their coronavirus outbreaks were more severe. Spaniards can't wait to be able to be outside more, but some of Madrid's wealthiest neighborhoods have been protesting for days, waving Spanish flags and banging pots, as they consider that the government have intentionally drawn out the city from progression to phase 1 based on political ideas rather than health data. Under phase 1, bars and restaurants in the capital will be allowed to reopen terraces, and groups of up to 10 people would be allowed to meet.
This has been Business Review, your daily source for the most critical stories in the financial world. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.